Welcome to The Explainer. We're about to dive into a really famous story from the Quran, the one about Abraham and the four birds. Now, you probably think you know it, but what if I told you its true meaning has been hiding in plain sight this whole time? So the story kicks off with this dialogue that honestly seems a little strange. Abraham, a man who is the very definition of conviction, asks God to show him how he brings the dead back to life. And God's response, "Have you not granted security?" almost sounds like a challenge, like he's questioning Abraham. It's a puzzle that's had people scratching their heads for centuries. And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? Was this a rare moment of weakness, of doubt, from a major prophet? Or is it possible that we've just been reading this conversation all wrong from the very beginning? The answer could honestly change everything about how we see the story. Okay, so the first clue to solving this whole mystery, it all comes down to a single super important Arabic word. And following an interpretation from researcher Khaled Al-Sayed Hassan, this one word is basically the key that unlocks a completely new way of understanding the whole passage. So, here's the absolute game changer. The verb yuminu is often translated to mean having a doctrinal conviction. But the argument here is that this specific meaning only applies when it's directly connected to God. In pretty much every other situation, its core linguistic meaning is to grant security. This completely reframes the idea of a mu'min. They're not just someone with a conviction, they are a grantor of security. And this is so important to get. Iman isn't just a feeling or something you hold in your head. It's an action. It's about the tangible things you do to provide safety and trust to other people. Thinking of Iman as an action is really the key to unlocking the rest of this puzzle. All right, on to clue number 2, the context. You see, the verses right before this story are absolutely vital because the Quran kind of provides its own dictionary. The story happening around an event can totally change what that event means. If you look at the verses right around this story, you see a really clear pattern emerge. Life and death are being used as social metaphors. A king gives life, not literally, but by making his city's economy thrive. A village dies when it collapses socially and economically. So in this context, revival isn't about biology. It's about rejuvenating a whole community. So when you put that into perspective, Abraham's question, "Show me how you give life to the dead," suddenly sounds completely different. He wasn't asking to see a literal physical resurrection. It seems he was asking for a guide, a blueprint, on how to revive his own people, a community that was, for all intents and purposes, socially and spiritually dead to him. And why were they dead to him? Well, another passage tells us exactly why. Abraham says to his people that there is animosity and hatred between them. The social connection was just gone. He didn't feel safe with them, and you can bet they didn't feel safe with him either. Okay, so let's put it all together. We have our two big clues. Aman is about granting security, and revival is about social renewal. Now let's go back to that original conversation and see what happens when we read it with this new understanding. And just like that, the entire conversation makes perfect sense. God isn't asking, "Don't you have conviction in me?" He's asking, "Haven't you already taken the first step and granted them security?" And Abraham's answer isn't about doubt at all. It's an honest admission of fear. He's saying, "Yes, I have. I've tried, but my heart needs reassurance. I'm still afraid of them, and I need a strategy, a method I can trust to actually work." This reframes everything. It's no longer about a prophet's abstract crisis of conviction. It becomes a story about a leader's very real, very human struggle. How in the world do you build a bridge to a community that's hostile to you? He's asking for a practical way to turn all that animosity into peace. So what was God's answer? Well, in this light, it's not some big, flashy miracle to prove a point. It's a deep, profound parable, a practical lesson in the art of reconciliation and bringing a community back together. That famous story, the one with the four birds, it suddenly becomes this incredibly practical guide. It's not about a physical miracle. It's a strategic, step-by-step manual for rebuilding trust. It's a masterclass in social engineering, really. This parable lays out a clear, 4-step plan for reconciliation. First, you tame the birds. That means patiently building a connection and rapport with the people you're estranged from. Second, place them on different mountains. You have to make big, undeniable gestures of goodwill, proving your sincerity from every angle. Third, call to them.
Once that trust is actually built, your invitation to connect will be accepted willingly, no force needed. And finally, you have to act with might and wisdom. Do all of this with dignity and smart strategy.
When you look at it like this, the whole story just completely transforms. It goes from being an ancient miracle story to a timeless and seriously relevant blueprint. It's a practical guide for anyone, a community leader, a parent, a friend, who's trying to fix a broken relationship and overcome hostility with both heart and a solid plan. So, what's the takeaway from all this? This ancient story, when you see it through this new lens, isn't just about something that happened long ago. It becomes a challenge for us, right here and now. It asks us to look at the dead relationships and the fractured communities in our own lives and in the world around us, and ask a really important question. Who needs to be brought back to life with dignity? And how can we start applying this blueprint for revival today?